So something that a lot of people don't get, you see this a lot of times when you hear conferences, when you have teachers and everything is, and paper reviews for scientific papers is, with every scientific study or idea or anything, there is always room for improvement. And that's because you're human and you, with a limited amount of time and resources, you can't try out every single idea that comes in it, even if it's an excellent idea. There isn't, you don't have all the resources to try everything. But that doesn't mean the knowledge is not worth getting out there, because if you get out there the knowledge, no, other people can build up on it, or it can immediately save lives, or you can get useful feedback. The other thing is that you don't know everything, so you cannot have thought of everything in it. No one knows everything. You might not have thought of something because you come from a different perspective, or just the time or something. Or some people might be criticizing you for not doing something, but they might not know the limitations of the field or something like that. Or that something happened unexpected that you do not know. So all these means that be careful when criticizing a project for being not the most worthwhile, or that they should have done more, or something like that. And also this little, maybe they also have a life outside, and this is a fun side project, which doesn't mean it's not going to give people valuable knowledge. But on the other hand, criticism is useful because if you want to continue the project or something, it can tell you very much useful way for what directions you should go, or future improvements, or it might give ideas to your peers on how to follow it up. And learning. But we don't teach criticism in the right way. When oftentimes we're talking about criticism with people, it's a necessity that we criticize people. It's not like you have to say to a person, well, I know better than you, I'm smarter than you, or all this stuff. Part of it comes from a culture that we have to prove that we're always superior in a competitive nature. If we made it in a more collaborative nature, just education and everything throughout, we would get rid of this idea that criticism is supposed to be showing off your own talent and stuff. If we get rid of the idea that we have to compete and be on top, and instead we should lift each other in communities, we get rid of the idea that you always have to comment, that you always have to negate other people's statements, contributions, stuff like that. If we get rid of the idea that that we are not, is that we have to use big fancy language and words to criticize people, will be a big contribution. Because what happens is people use that to hide behind that they don't know what to criticize or how to criticize people. Instead, they use fancy language. A criticism should be easily understandable, and it should not be something that very few people should understand in most cases. So teaching people to communicate to the masses would be also a huge benefit around this negative criticism. Teaching people that you don't always have to take other people's criticism. A lot of times when people hear criticism, they think they have to take the criticism, but you don't. Oftentimes, different people might have different opinions. I've seen people say in the same sentence, you should expand something, and then other people say you should make it shorter. Learning that you don't have to appease everyone early on in life is a good thing. Maybe they're not your audience or something. So that could be taught throughout school and everything. That, yes, you don't have to take every suggestion. You can write back why you didn't take the suggestion, or maybe other things. Learning self-confidence will be a huge part of this thing. So you don't take these criticisms too well and it hurts you. So you can respond better back. So learning self-confidence means that letting people fail and saying it's okay if they fail. Not stressing out that everyone has to be number one, or you have to always be the best at something. Another thing that could be done around this whole thing is learning that if someone criticizes you one way, they have the right, other person has the right to criticize you back. So if you're working in group politics, the people you criticize get to criticize you back. So you learn that you don't have power. Also, just with the power dynamics, just redefine power dynamics as a whole, that the power dynamics, what truly is powerful is not you having power over people. It's not that you have more money, more gold, more materials, more high prestige, political power over people. That's useless. What's useful is power in your community as a community as a whole. To make an analogy is that kings and stuff have a ton of power in the old days. If you look compared to all the population, they may have been billionaires and stuff. But I'm talking about kings like 600 years ago. But they didn't have access to modern medicine. Like they didn't have modern transportation, the internet stuff. So in lots of ways, poor people today could be more powerful than a king in the old days with what they can actually do. And yes, so what benefits the community benefits the whole. But how do you criticize people rightfully so? Well, one of them is to talk about it more as your opinion and acknowledge that other people might disagree. Say, for example, I think we should expand it on the section because for me, for my field, blah, 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 and I know it's important to me because of blah, blah reason. So not just an open statement, attack statement, but other people might disagree with me for blah, blah reasons. That way you don't as strongly say it while also giving reasoning why you said that. Don't criticize people on techniques and stuff that are just going way over details, which I see in scientific paper. People, when they have nothing to say, will oftentimes criticize the techniques that person used to extreme in depth. So like they'll be like, so what exact file did you use? I've seen questions like that. Or what exact instrument did you use when all instruments will give? And then go into a whole bunch of these about asking about the instrument. I've seen people questioning the price of the instrument, which is not relevant to the topic. It doesn't really matter how expensive or not the instrument price is unless you're trying to buy one yourself. I mean, stuff like that, but they'll criticize in the paper because they just need to say something, which is another important lesson. Don't say something if you don't need to say something. You don't have anything good to contribute. The thing about over-criticizing techniques and stuff is only criticize a technique if it's going to affect the results a lot or the reproducibility. You do not need to know the exact instrument all the time if the instrument is not going to affect the results that much. If they're using a glass vial manufactured by A and B, if that's probably not going to affect the results that much, why say it? Unless you're trying to buy it, the source. Don't say stuff that also realize that they might also have limits with wording and limitations with wording and stuff like that. Another thing is that you could do presentations where you have, and this is something that should be more encouraged, is where you have the presentation that's nice and polished, give the big main ideas and important stuff. But people that are really interested in the topic in depth, they get to look at the ugly stuff. The ugly technical details and the procedure and the methods, or the data that is not good, but might be important if you really want to go a deep dive. But nobody got time to reformat that well, and spending that time will waste the researchers or other person's time instead of them doing intellectual pursuits. Also, it might not, sometimes also not the nicest looking is actually clearer. Tables are not very nice looking at times. Tables or list of numbers might not be very nice looking at times, but they might have the data in a much actually more easily accessible format. So looking at that, don't criticize people's tone or grammar or spelling unless it's actually very much relevant to understanding the clarity of their message. Then you do it. But also, don't criticize someone way more than you would criticize yourself. I've seen a lot of people criticize other people's spelling and grammar when they themselves are making a bunch of spelling and grammar mistakes, which is super hypocritical and quite common. So don't be a hypocrite. Maybe throw in a couple compliments if you're going to criticize study, and always look for the good stuff. Now also realize again, Not everything has to be great and perfect for yourself or the data you're looking at. This is also a huge problem with the media when it presents results. And I think the media has really exaggerated this problem, is the media has gone on to present everything as a breakthrough, a scientific breakthrough, and it with more certainty than a study does. When presenting results of something, realize, or technology or anything, realize we don't know if it's the future or not. We don't know if it's a breakthrough. Maybe it is or maybe it's not. But when we overhype it, the criticism also becomes even more because we get more disappointments and more failures, more times we're used to people crying wolf, and all those other things. So it really negatively affects just everything. And then once we look at papers, we just don't have the same thing. So the media needs to also just stop exaggerating stuff. And you also, when you look at studies, don't exaggerate it and get used to that not everything is the best. Don't hold up everything to be the best. Well, thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe. It really helps to turn out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year and 4,000 watch hours, which is really hard, but with your help, I think you can do it. Also, if you have any ideas for future videos, comments, or suggestions, please leave in the comment section below. Again, thank you very much. Goodbye.